Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough. I'm Dr. Debi Silber, and today's guest is Akary Busto. Akary is an emotional biohacker and trauma-informed guide who helps people regulate their nervous systems and heal through the power of the heart. Blending human design, HeartMath, breathwork, and somatic tools, she supports clients in reconnecting with their bodies and transforming emotional patterns. With roots in indigenous Mexican wisdom and a modern science-based approach, Akary bridges ancestral healing with practical strategies for lasting change. Today's episode is going to open your heart, expand your mind, and calm your nervous system. I'm joined by my dear friend and gifted healer, Akary Busto. Akary is a breathwork facilitator, nervous system regulation expert, and human design practitioner, and she brings a beautiful blend of science, energy, and grounded wisdom to everything she does. In this conversation, we dive into the real reason why many healing tools don't stick, especially after betrayal. We talk about how trauma dysregulates the nervous system, what to do about it, and how practices like HeartMath and breathwork can help you finally feel safe in your body once again. And if you've ever wondered why you react the way you do, or why certain relationships trigger you more than others, Akary shares how human design can give you a blueprint for understanding your patterns and unlocking new possibilities for healing and peace. Here we go. Okay, everybody, we are with my friend Akary Busto today. You know, sometimes you need those friends. We will be talking all about nervous system regulation and all about human design and all of that. But you know how sometimes you just have those friends who just like kind of give you a little kick in the booty when you need it. I actually was really sick. And it was the flu, and I was getting over the flu, and I actually had a really big talk to do. Well, my dear friend Akary Busto said, well, why don't you get this? And why don't you get that? And why don't you do all these things to help yourself, which I didn't even consider. And because of that, I showed up a lot more powerfully at this talk. So welcome, Akary.
Thank you. Yeah, you needed a mom.
I really, really did. It didn't even occur to me to actually get special teas and all these things to help myself, but it got me through that talk, and I was thrilled you were there. It was just so exciting to see your beautiful face. Anyway, we're going to dive into our topic. So we're talking about nervous system regulation and human design. So let's just start there. Let's start with nervous system
Yeah.
regulation.
So I really feel that after my own journey and going through everything, I like it just like dawned on me. It's like, wow, everything really is the resiliency within our nervous system. And it's interesting because you and I have like parallel walks, like we walk alongside the same kind of things that we're really curious about. We tend to find each other there. And I started to practice a lot of heart math techniques that ended up really shifting a lot of my paradigm and the narrative of my story. Because when we are experiencing something as deep as betrayal trauma, it just throws everything out the window. And what I notice now as I can look backwards and connect the dots is that my resiliency was really low. And it has been over time using these techniques and measuring, right? Because the scientist in me is like, if you can't measure it, you can't track it. And if you can't track it, you can't change it.
Right.
And so that has really been the big piece for me, the missing link, right? That no other therapy was ever able to do. Like we can do all the EMDR and all the brain spotting and all of these different things. But it goes down to your nervous system. If your nervous system isn't resilient, you can do all of these things, eat different, move, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to stick, right? Because you're not at that place where things can actually shift. The rewiring of the brain and all of that doesn't happen until your nervous system is much more stable. And I think that's why sometimes recovery takes longer.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. Let's talk about what does it look like when your nervous system is dysregulated, and what did you do to regulate it?
So interestingly enough, with the HeartMath Institute, we have a biofeedback sensor that tracks everything live so you can see it. And it's just fascinating because as you're tracking this, and of course you can track it with like an aura ring as well. It's just not the same because we're tracking different things. But just the wretched little lines, right? Like you're looking at these curves and they just look horrendous. They look at like there's just so much going on, especially when you're comparing it to beautiful waves that just really go up and down. And so for me, my dysregulation showed up in a lot of anger and rage that I had never seen, right? It was, and I don't think that I had permission to show it, and it was just a cumulative of things that had happened over my lifetime that ended up just like everything spilling out at once. And that's how dysregulation showed up for me.
Yeah.
As I started to rewire all of that, it slowly started to diminish and it started to shift and it started to change. And it wasn't me who really noticed, it was my family who noticed.
They'll tell you how you're showing up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll link this episode too. We did an episode about HeartMath. It's such a beautiful sensor and practice and app and everything. And there's something if you're competitive with yourself, I'm not at all, but some people are. There's something about gamifying, the process of checking your own heart coherence from day to day. And you see how there are these days where it is just all over the place, and then sometimes where you're in this beautiful space of coherence for a period of time, and it really shows you what's going on internally that you can't see. And you mentioned the aura ring, that can be great too, but it's really true. There's something about HeartMath, and I just love the name too, because when it comes to betrayal, we have a broken heart, and healing that broken heart, what better way to do that than with all kinds of tools and support, HeartMath being one of them, can be a great thing. So when you noticed that your nervous system was getting a bit more regulated, what did it feel like for you? So the app was telling you that it was happening. Your family was agreeing. What did you notice?
The pause. That famous pause that everyone tells you to take, right? Take a breath. It's like,
yeah.
I can't, not when I'm focused, so hyper focused on my anger, everything shuts down for me.
Yeah.
So what I noticed was that little voice that said, do you really need to say this, or does it need to be said, or do you just want to hear yourself say it? I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
calling you on your stuff.
that was really powerful for me.
Yeah.
And the other piece that I noticed is my baseline for calm was way off, right? I was like, oh yeah, I'm really calm. And then when I started to do these exercises, I was like, oh no, that was not even calm. But again, if you can't track it, you'll never know. It's like never getting blood work and not knowing whether you have, insulin resistance or anything like that.
Right. Right.
So it was a really powerful moment for me to be able to capture that. And that is when I became more of, like you say, like yeah, there's a gamifying of things, but it's also like the awareness that is born from this. I never knew I wanted to track any of this, and I realized that it is probably the most important thing because you can't measure it.
Yeah. And it's so true as it relates to betrayal. It's almost like here we are in the middle of a tornado, and we're trying to keep going with our day and take care of our kids or our families, aging parents, our work, whatever it is we're doing. We don't even know what normal is. Normal doesn't exist anymore. And I see what you're saying. There's something about when we're tracking it, we realize how off center we really are until we come back. It just reminds me of this. I was living in that space for so long, and silly example, but I was making Thanksgiving. I've been doing Thanksgiving for over 30 years. That's my big holiday that I do. One time a year, I cook, and I cook a lot. And it was easy. And I was shocked. I was like, wow. And I remember sitting with one of my kids. I was like, that was really easy. And it was nothing really changed. It was only my perspective and the way I moved through it. And that's so true with how we move through so many different things. And when you say that pause, it's almost like you can see things from a perspective you just didn't have access to beforehand.
And you know, I think the challenging thing about these techniques is that they're easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we are so conditioned, especially as women, to believe that if it's not hard, then it's not going to work. And so I challenge that now because I think that the easier it is, then the more our brain is going to be like, yeah, let's keep doing it. Because if it's hard, like, come on now, we're in the middle of hard. Like, we don't even know how to describe hard until we're in a situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so why do I want to make it harder? And so these techniques make it very easy to implement when you're standing at the grocery store and you see something that is very triggering, whatever that could be. When you're in the middle of a family dinner and, you know, someone is having attitude and you're just like, ooh, I just want to go over there and, you know, knock them down. And you're able to take a breath and you're able to evaluate things from a different perspective.
But I think, the part that I find so interesting is I think maybe it's just, I don't know if everybody's brought up like this, but it's almost like it's supposed to be hard. Like there's something about if it's hard, it's worthwhile. If it's hard, you get to experience the reward from that. I know how backwards this sounds, but I'm thinking of my own training where it's supposed to be, there's some sort of reward you get for this sacrifice and hard work and things not coming so easily, almost like that's the only way to justify the reward.
Yeah, but you know, the way I look at it is, where are your trophies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you collecting hard trophies for yourself? And how is that working out for you?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's about self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
Self-preservation. And we already, as women, have a lot of things to deal with, whether it's hormones, childbirth, pregnancy, I mean, your period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like every day there's something new that we have to deal with. So why does our transformation have to be this hard?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great opportunity to take a look at who are we if we don't work so hard. Like I know for me that was a big one to move through. Like there was a time that I had a surgery on, and I talk about this, I had surgery on my feet. I had worn away all the cartilage inside. It was severe arthritis. And I couldn't walk. And so if I couldn't walk, I really couldn't do as much physical work that I would normally do. And it really struck me. I'm like, wait a second, my value and my worth was so tied to the doing, to how much I can do. And how do you really assess that or test yourself? It's when you can't do it. And I kind of think that was the universe's way of saying, you know what, we are going to just make sure you can't. So to give you, this little test to see what's going on. But I see this, I mean, I'm sure men experience this too, but I see it especially with women where we're just, it's about and I'm sure it's true, men too. How much can we produce? What can we do? And we don't realize the damage that we're creating. And it's in the simplicity, something simple as breath, which I know you talk about as well. Let's talk about what breath can do, what breathing can do.
Well, you know, there's two ways. I started as a breathwork facilitator because of my own stress, my corporate stress that I carried, raising a daughter, working full time, you know, traveling for work, the whole nine yards, and just how much that really impacted, and the burnout. The burnout is real. And not knowing that I was in the midst of burnout, just feeling the pain in my body.
Yeah.
So when I did my first breathwork session, it was just amazing how I could finally, for the first time, get out of my head. And as I have, you know, practiced so many different things, I now realize it is because as women, we're so used to being so busy.
Yeah.
That for me, sitting in silence was more painful than sitting, laying down and doing a breath work meditation because I was actively participating.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so,
It's where I remember thinking to myself, where I know how important all these things are, but I chose as a way of sort of my meditation, journaling. And I remember my rationale was, well, I'm kind of doing something. I mean, it was so hardwired that even the practice of undoing, here I was using a doing practice to undo. And
well,
I,
and I
yeah.
think that it's compounded for you, right? Because you are a 4-6 manifesting generator. That six, like you're born with your hair on fire already, like super quick. And then that manifesting generator with that busyness, right? That energy
Mhm.
of constantly being busy.
Yeah.
And I think the most challenging thing for you is to slow down. And
Mm.
I have a client that I'm seeing right now that is so funny. I ask her, what does it feel like to slow down? And she says, I stop bumping into things. I start accidentally dropping things. I don't have
Yeah,
bruises in my body.
I get it. And just to back up, what we're talking about now is human design. And that's actually how Akari and I became friends, because we were human design buddies. And I was fascinated with human design because it sort of gave this blueprint to who we are. And there's a reason why we act a certain way, or show up a certain way, or make decisions a certain way. So let's just really back up and talk about human design. Let's talk about, what, for those who aren't familiar, what it is, and then just how we can use it to our advantage.
So it is developed out of 5 different systems. So it's not just one, which is so fascinating, right? It's not one. We're going to be multi like focused here. We do the Kabbalah, Tree of Life, the I Ching, the Book of Wisdom, the Hindu chakra system, our favorite Eastern and Western astrology, and of course we got to add some spice to it, and we do some quantum physics in it, so the science of it. And all blended in, we are able to create a chart out of your birth date, your birth time, and where you were born. And it gives us a snapshot, really, of where the planets were at the time of your birth and where the planets were 3 months before you were born, which I feel like is just so rich when we're talking about epigenetics and DNA and everything that comes through. And so it is the what we call the unconscious, like things that we just don't know about ourselves. So it gives us an idea of what we were here to, what how are we are supposed to behave in life. So for you, it's like busy and doing a lot of different things and
Mhm.
experimenting with things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the project that gets completed. um for me as a generator, I'm here for completion. I'm here to get things done and to be very laser focused. We're both here for mastery in different ways, and it just really boom, it's like, wow, this is why I've been so ABCDEF, like whatever it was. This for me was where I realized, like, you're a manifesting generator. My mother is a manifesting generator.
Mhm.
She raised me with my hair on fire,
Yeah.
and would get upset when I wouldn't initiate something, like, why are you not starting this, why are you not doing this? And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, like it doesn't feel good. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good in my body. And completely being misunderstood because she was looking at through her lens, and that's how she raised me. So it's so interesting because when we start to look at the open centers, because the chart has the chakra centers, where we're looking at openness and definition in these centers, we realize where we're a little more sensitive
Mhm.
and where we have consistent energy that's very stabilizing.
Mhm.
So for me, when I look at women's charts and I can see the openness, I can sometimes see this pattern going from woman to woman despite their type, around why do we get hooked so easily to a narcissistic trait right? It's that narcissistic energy. Why do we attract that to us? Aside from the conditioning, right? We're conditioned
Mm-hmm.
to be people pleasers. Um, that is what really fascinates me.
Because you could see it in the chart. You could see it in the chart. I'll tell you that this is so spot on. I'll never forget learning how one of the things, as Akary mentioned, I'm 4'6". It's one of the number, the profile, and the 6 is that at this sort of role model for after 50, you kind of land on this role model idea, and everything you've been accumulating all your life now sort of kind of makes sense. Well, it's almost like at 50 on the nose, I sort of became a role model for my work, with just in my community. And the other thing was learning about a manifesting generator, how we make mistakes so that we go back and clean it up and find the shortcut. And then when the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough showed up, which is the shortcut in how to heal from betrayal, I was absolutely in shock. But there are so many other things that I love. Like when you know your chart, when you know who you are, like I know I am never supposed to make split decisions. I am supposed to wait. And if it's a continual yes, it's a yes. And if it wavers, it should be a no. That must have saved me $1 million already. Just that one thing. And what Akary was talking about also with the openness. With the openness, we have these centers, and if you look at a chart, you'll see there some centers are colored, some are open, and the openness is where we can do an incredible amount of learning. Like, for example, explain what my spleen is entirely open, nothing attached to it, even coming close.
Yeah, well, that is where it's interesting. It's very intuitive. It's very much in the now. It's where fear lives. And one of the things that the spleen is known for, open spleen, is for holding on to things for a little too long, whether it's relationships, whether it is, things, people. So yeah, it really blows my mind away. And then because you have nothing connected to it, it becomes like you don't even know of it. Like it's not even conscious, or there's no awareness in it. It's a lot of learning.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is, and those of you who know my story, crash and burn in my marriage, and we both healed and transformed, and then we married each other again. And what's so fascinating, and Akary, our teacher, saw this in a composite chart with my chart and my husband's chart. We both have the same thing where we have our spleens having nothing connecting, both of us. And she said she's only seen that one other time. So either it makes us both bananas or something. I'm not quite sure. Let's get back to the nervous system, because I always want to get into the minds and, of course, the hearts of our listeners or viewers. And here they are, either reeling from their experience or on the road to healing about it. What's a strategy or a solution that you can give them? Something that they can say, okay, you know what? When I'm at the online at the grocery store, I can try this. Or as I'm moving about my day, how do I begin to regulate my nervous system? Can you share with us something that they can begin to do?
Yeah, this is the easy thing you can do.
Yeah.
I started calling the heart the she who knows it all.
Mm.
She who knows it all. And we look at our ancestry throughout the globe, and a lot of the teachings were around the heart. And I feel like finally we're catching up. Science is catching up to the woo-woo. Science is really giving it validity. And so connecting to your heart is the best way to be able to stop all the spiraling, because you can't control what is outside. You can control what is in here. And so my favorite example is, you're at a restaurant, the toddler that's screaming. The people who get bothered by it are the people who are going, ugh, right? Like, what is this? Shut that kid up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dysregulated nervous system. That's a nervous system that does not have enough resilience to understand that, number one, it's not personal. Number two, it's a toddler who needs something. And yet you're totally personalizing it and you're allowing it to ruin that moment in time for you. And so it is in that moment that you can just connect to your heart, stop, breathe into it. The beautiful foundation of HeartMath is to imagine that your heart, you're breathing through your heart. And the visualization that I've created for this is imagine that it grows 3 to 5 feet outside of your body. And every time you're inhaling back, your heart starts to soften. And as you start to soften, you start to build more self-compassion, but you also build compassion for the people around you. And what science has now proven is that we have an electromagnetic field that goes 3 to 5 feet outside of our body. So as we are practicing this little technique, you're helping the people around you to be regulated as well.
Mm.
And that's where the magic really happens.
Right. I love that. And if you're not sure if your energy is having an impact on others, this is something that I do just as it's a fun little thing I do. Sometimes I'm walking around. First of all, if I'm ever on a stage, I am shooting beams of love at everybody I'm on stage with. So that's in the audience. So that is something I do. I don't know if they feel it. I hope so. The other thing I do is and I learned this from Louise Hay, the late Louise Hay. Oh. And I remember she said, just sort of shoot these love beams as you see somebody as you're walking down the street or whatever. And if you do this quiet little experiment, and sometimes you'll notice someone looking and their head was down, and it wasn't just because they saw you, they felt you. And I am convinced it's a real thing. Speak to that. Is that something that is...
It's contagious, right? Yeah. We call this the social contagion. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing about it is that it has a ripple effect. And so the more you are in your own little bubble of love, the less anyone's going to come and penetrate into it, because there's no way to get in. And that's the power that you end up, taking back for yourself, is that I've already reacted. Let me respond different. Let me respond with love, with compassion, with kindness. Yeah. Right? That kindness that we talk about so much. I love to just be in my own bubble, and I love going to events and just being in my own bubble. I probably look like a dummy, like I'm all smiling, but it is so fun to be able to just watch someone else's reaction. You're making someone's day. Yeah. And you don't have to say anything. All you have to do is smile.
Exactly. And it works the other way too. When you're bringing your negativity and you're bringing your anger, your resentment, your bitterness, and bringing that into the room, that's felt as well. So everything is energy. Be careful about that. What do you want to make sure everyone knows as we wrap up?
I really want everyone to know that there are so many different ways to go about this work. I love your 5 steps. I think that is the best way to go through things. And you and I have talked a lot about this. And be open, be curious, because I feel like there's so many ways that we get trapped into doing a lot of group work in the therapeutic sense, that all it becomes, sadly, is just a place to come and complain. Mm-hmm. And not enough tools to help us really move forward. And like you say, we get stuck in that stage 3. Yeah. And it is not a place for us. I know it's very seductive to have power. Finally, we feel like very powerful, but at the end of the day, that is not going to help you get to where you want to be. There's so much more out there for you. And I just want people to remember that, the women, the men, to know that there are other opportunities out there to definitely step into, because we're all very unique, and what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other.
Exactly. And it's really true. Just because you're feeling this sense of power, and it may be the first time you feel like you're holding on to the reins in a bit, it can be so much better. So trust that there's so much better, and don't settle for just because you're on solid ground. Yes, stand there for a bit, catch your breath, but keep moving. Where do we go to learn more about you and the great work you do?
My website, akary.com, UHKARE.com, or you can find me on Instagram, akarybreathwork.com. Oh, no, not .com, right? That's Instagram. getting all mixed up here. But yeah, those are my favorite places to be. It's fast and it allows us to just put content out there that help people understand themselves a little better
Yeah.
and not lose hope.
I love that. Well, you heard it here, everybody. Her work is brilliant. She's helped so many people. And I just want to thank you for your time, for your wisdom. You just shared so much value with our audience today. What a beautiful, soulful, and deeply practical conversation. Stay in touch with Akary by going to akary.com, and we'll have all of our information in the show notes at thepbtinstitute.com/podcast. Here's my biggest takeaway: from nervous system regulation to the surprising power of breath, and even the energetic patterns revealed through human design, this episode reminds us that healing doesn't always require doing more. Sometimes it's about reconnecting to your body, your energy, and the truth of who you are. If something resonated with you today, take a moment to try one of the practices Akary mentioned. Maybe it's heart-centered breathing. Maybe it's simply allowing yourself a pause. These small moments add up and truly change how you move through the world. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to From Betrayal to Breakthrough, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who could use a little calm, clarity, and courage today. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to be with you next time, and here's to your breakthrough.